when we watch these things, by about the second week of practice, the defense knows what's coming. So every time we see a play get shut down in the showcase or at practice, there was a tell. They've seen these plays a million times in the secondary, and they're talented. And so now Mike's not calling stuff in this showcase that is going to act as a man beater. You're not seeing things that you would do to pick players. I know we're not supposed to call it picks, but that's what mesh is. That's what these things are. You pick people. So they don't really do that. And thus you're going to see a talented group of players who know what's coming dominate an offense. And for stretches, that's exactly what they did. That's not the way an opposing defense that doesn't see your offense every single day is going to act. They're going to have keys, and you're going to be able to play off of that, and you're going to have a knowledge of what they do, and then you're going to play call and install based on how to offset whatever weakness you have and strength they have, and vice versa. So it's you're reminded of that when something's excessive, part of it is the familiarity that one group has over the other in camp, and defense is always ahead of offense. That's especially true when you're installing an offense with a bunch of new faces and a brand new quarterback. So all of that makes some sense. That said, I think they've got to go out and get another receiver.
After all that logical reasoning, putting it all together, the motion's denied. We're going to get ourselves a wide receiver.
No, I think that's what I mean. I want people to know that I didn't just willy-nilly that because I saw a bad, stretch in the spring game.
For me, the best part of the spring game where you learn or showcase that you learn something new from a practice and 11 on 11, which they do a lot of 11 on 11 in spring camp. So it's not as though this is the first time that they're all going head to head, but they don't go live the same way that they do in the showcase or the same way that they do in a scrimmage that's closed to the media. And so the one part of practice that is really, really hard to evaluate is the success of the run game on a random Tuesday or a random Thursday, because they play thud. They don't go to the ground. The whistle blows. I don't know if Jalen Lucas was going to break that. I don't know if it was going to be a gain of 4. Ditto for any other running back. What I was buoyed by, and what we don't see day to day that we get to see in the showcase, is they were able to move it around and run the ball a little bit. I thought that it wasn't the most consistent thing in the world, but it wasn't one explosive and then a whole lot of nothing. For example, on Roydale Williams' touchdown, Darrell Jackson is anchoring the middle of the defensive line, and they execute a combo block on him to get him out of the way. And then you've got Richie Leonard winning his block one-on-one that opens up the seam for Roydale to hit with patience, and then boom, there he goes, and he scores a 20-plus yard touchdown. Those things, plus Keziah Holmes' performance as a runner and a blocker, that's my favorite player of the day. I thought Keziah's performance was excellent. And in a room that's crowded when you're vying for snaps, he couldn't have done more things well. He ran the ball well. He showed his top-end speed. He ran through Shaheem Brown in open space. He pass protected on Lawrence Toafili's situational score that happened early in the day before they got into 11 on 11, or I should say that the scrimmage setting. He had a lead block in that situation. Like that running game, I'm glad to be able to see that, because that's something that we do not get access to in spring camp. And they look like they were able to hold their own, especially on that left side, and especially when it was Ferguson and Richie Leonard at guard. I liked all of those pieces being put together. I think they've got a real shot to be able to run the ball this year.
Ferguson and Richie Leonard are going to guarantee that we're able to run the ball. I think that's true. I agree with you there. I think in the interior, we're fine running the football. Again, I'm a little worried about tackle at this point. I think you can make – I was telling you off the air, Tom, that we'll see what happens in these months that we're not at practice and they've got time to just go to war in the gym and get bigger and stronger. But part of my solution right now would be I don't know what Robert Scott's going to be in terms of availability. I never do, and I'm tired of the conversation. So I'm just going to presume that he's not available. Obviously, they're hoping that he is. Great. If he is and he's healthy, he's a good player. But I have no reason to believe that he's going to be healthy because he hasn't been in over a year. So let's just wait and see what happens. But if he's not, I think maybe you would think about Simmons And getting him out there, if he can put that size on, his base is great. He's got good feet. He's got NFL left tackle length. He's all of the things. He's just a little small up top, and he's completely cleared. He's able to play. He's had good days at camp. I think you can hopefully continue to put on some size with him and see maybe he's ready. And then that way you could have him at tackle, and you could put Washington over at right tackle. That might solve some of your situation. I still think you'd need to go out and get another offensive lineman. I just don't know that they're deep enough there to withstand any significant injury. And that was the group that was disappointing last year. I said this last year during the season. I'm going to bring it up again now because I don't know. It could certainly be answered. It could work out fine. But I really hope that we're not in a situation where we're starting to question the consistency from Atkins at this point. I mean, I'm starting to we don't need to be having your elite programs aren't always elite on the offensive line. Then that year in and year out, they're not the most dominant group. Every fan base complains about their offensive line because that's an area where it's obvious when they make a mistake or they're not consistent. But I'm a little two fingers to my eyes, two fingers back to you right now. I mean, we've been here before. Doesn't mean that we're panicking. Just, okay, let's see what's going on here because that group last year was disappointing.
Well,
they were the most disappointing aspect of the team a year ago.
Yeah, agreed. And you're right to point out that every program goes through it. Alabama's issues in the offensive line the last couple of years has really hindered them, not out of a playoff spot this past season. But for Bryce Young, in his final year before he went to the NFL, his scrambling ability was the only reason that they showed out as much as they did offensively. I think it hinges on the development of a Lucas Simmons. I don't know that he'd be ready this soon in the fall. It'd be great. It'd be great if he was. Andre Otto's development, that development looks to be going very well. It is a positive development.
He's a good player. He's a real good player.
I think they cross-train him. Now, they had him at right tackle for everybody to see this weekend, and I thought he held his own. There's one play where it looks like he gives up a sack to a walk-on Menzer, but that's on Trevor Jackson, the quarterback. You could see Mike, he's pissed at the end of it. It's a play where he initially makes the block, 93 loops around, they blow the play dead. Well, it's a bubble screen or a flash screen to Jaylen Brown. Yeah. And you just got to snap and throw. That's the job. Later on, Andre Otto, and there was the second quarter of the game, he lines up against Marvin Jones, and Marvin had been on the sideline for some time, but Andre held his own in that particular circumstance too. He's extremely quick. I don't think you want to go into opening day in Dublin with that being your starting right tackle, but there are some options that could be cultivated from those high school ranks. It's just, the depth of this offensive line, where it's coming from. I think if this coaching staff is counting on Robert Scott to be available this fall, that is foolish. You can't count on that. You have to look at that as a luxury piece, not something that you're going to build around. And I'm assuming that they're thinking about it that way.
Yeah, I'd look at that. I'd look at defensive line just as another position where you'd want that depth. Other than, I'm not worried about anything in the secondary. I'm not going out and getting anybody there. I think you can look at a wide receiver. I hope Hakeem can really make a leap in the fall. That's a guy that I thought could be a superstar. I still think he has great days in front of him. I get tired of hearing him described as somebody who's really good at blocking. Great. Yes, in order to be out there, you're going to need to block. Got it. We should all do that for one another. That's how big plays happen. That's the essence of being a good teammate. It's kind of a prerequisite. But let's be honest with ourselves. When you bring in a 5-star wide receiver that looks like that and has an NFL body, and the few times you saw him in a game last year, a couple notable moments where you went, that'll take your breath away. Like, I ought to see real progress as him as a receiver. Great that you can block, Hakeem. Let's start seeing some consistency, route running, catching, explosive plays. That's what we should see from him as he takes the next big step.
I've got a prescription for you right now. All right. It's a couple of doses of this. We're elite at corner. We're locked down at corner. And that's all it is. So just take that pill every 6 hours. Just swig it back with some water. Now, if they hit the portal, you don't have to have that prescription anymore. We can wean ourselves off of the prescription. But if they don't go into the portal and they're going to roll with what they have, which again assumes that the Malik Benson news would be good. I think if Malik Benson's news is not good, then you absolutely have to go all out